Hey, everyone. Oh. Cool. So, like I was introduced, I'm currently at Booking.com, and what I want to cover today is what if I told you that one story shaped and changed the future of one of the biggest travel companies in the world, specifically within Europe? I think as designers, it's easy for us to get bogged down by the business demands that we lose sight of the whole reason why we're even designing these products in the first place, or who we're designing them for. And of course, it's not just designers. So in the next kind of 40, 35 minutes, by the end of this talk, I really hope for you to take away some of the key elements of how to craft a product vision that actually influences the direction of your company or client work. My journey with the process that I'm about to show you ended up influencing Booking.com's 5-year global strategy, long-term and annual priorities, company-wide investment, and even org structure changes. Pretty big ones. But my personal favorite is that it's rallied over 20,000 employees towards one vision and one North Star. In March of 2022, I was asked to help lead a design vision project. It was requested by our CBO. Classic design request to make some pretty visuals. That were to kind of go alongside some of the strategy discussions that were taking place. Now, I had been at Booking for about 5 years at this point, and I had seen vision work like this come and go with little to no traction. Significant time spent, big initial hype, and then nothing. Luckily, our senior director of user experience knew we had to learn from these previous attempts and take a different approach. We just had no idea how we were actually going to do that. But what we did know is that in order for us to have this project be more than just pretty pictures, we had to make it a collaborative effort. Previous attempts were done in isolation, and honestly, they were kind of perceived as being done in this like ivory tower, so we definitely wanted to avoid that. Now, I had absolutely no clue what I was doing. Like, at all. I'd never been on a project even remotely close to this complexity or scale. But I got to work anyways, researching different workshop structures and process frameworks that I could run various stakeholders through. And within 2.5 weeks, the framework had a green light, and we were setting up design workshops with over 100 stakeholders from every corner of the business, of the product org. I'm talking researchers, copywriters, designers, product folks, engineers, CS, and just so much more. The first workshops really started off very strategy-focused. The first step was to create a common understanding amongst our decision makers, and that essentially meant taking them through essential insights and research that they needed to be aware of in order to make informed decisions. With those same stakeholders, we assessed the biggest areas of friction for our customers, but also where we saw the biggest opportunities to delight them. The process that I kind of took everybody through very intentionally forced the participants to think through the lens of our customer, because over at Booking, we've definitely been guilty of being so data-driven that we sometimes lose sight of the people actually using our products, especially at a holistic level. So by the end of phase 1, we were left with a set of prioritized customer must be able to statements. Now, I know you have no idea what this actually means, or combat statements, by the way, as an acronym, and we love acronyms. Now, I know you have no idea what this actually means, but I don't have the extra 30 minutes that I need to explain to you why I actually ditched user needs and job to be done statements in order to create combat statements. You'll have to follow me on Medium for that. I go a lot more in detail. But the TLDR is that these statements articulated the experiences that we all agreed that we should prioritize as a part of our long-term vision. Or, as a designer just told me the other week, they were essentially the promises that we intended to make and keep to our customers. So essentially at this point, we had a rough idea of the what we wanted to do, what we wanted to prioritize. So it was time to define just how, like how were we going to go about that? So this is where we included stakeholders actually close to the product work. The first phase was really senior level stakeholders, senior directors, VPs, et cetera. But this round was really with people who were close to the product work, who would actually be executing some of the stuff that came out of this vision. Why did we do it that way? They were the subject matter experts over the different parts of the product experience, and it was design sprint time. Classic design sprint with around 50 stakeholders over 2 days, and you'll have to buy me a drink if you want to know how we got through that unscathed, because it was absolute chaos. Organized chaos, but chaos. So now we had the prioritized experiences, and we had a bunch of design solutions that could potentially address them. This is where the actual design part of my title comes into play. So essentially, high-fidelity designs, design reviews, feedback, and iteration. I think you guys kind of know the process. But what we ended up with was finalized designs per each priority with a clear articulation of why they're important and what it means for customers. And realistically, we could have left it at just that. A slide deck full of different features that we could bring and build to customers in the future. It was great, but it was boring. Total snoozeville. So my manager had just seen the latest Apple keynote, and he comes to me and he's like, "Can we do more? Can we do more than this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we can do more." So it was back to the research, Apple keynotes and Simon Sinek being my two main sources of inspiration. Legit, at this point, we had less than a week before we had to present this to our entire leadership team. I'm very good under pressure, if you haven't figured that out yet, with this kind of timeline. But luckily, I was also partnered with a stellar project manager who I could not have done it without. Now, before I show you kind of these next parts, obviously a huge caveat that I'm talking about visionary work here, and I can't actually show you all of our internal secrets. So everything I'm about to show you exists live in the booking app today, but let me show you kind of the very typical format that we almost presented. Oh, no sound?
Everyone, thanks so much for having me here. I'm just going to jump straight in just because I know we don't have a ton of time, so let me just get the screen share going. Perfect. All right. First and foremost, here's a feature that we want you to consider, and it's really all around enabling customers to find accommodation options even if they don't have specific dates. Now, you might be asking, why is this important? It's because we know that 20% of users come to booking without specific dates in mind, and they want to explore what options they have across a broad range of availability. What this actually means for our customers, and kind of what you can see there on the right, is being able to select across a selection of months that they would like to travel, and also selecting different kind of lengths of stay for their trip that they might be interested in. So there on the right, you can see that this user is selecting July and August for a week duration. And then on the far right, you can see that they're getting results for that kind of range of time. For week stays, you can see the different dates listed out there with each accommodation option. Wonderful. Okay. So the next one is customers must be able to receive timely alerts of price drops for flights that they're interested in. Why is this important? Because it is a core experience offered by our primary competitors that is heavily used by users. We need to offer this to meet customers' need and also kind of meet that competitive benchmark that we see kind of across the competitive landscape. What would this actually mean? It is a feature that would allow customers to turn on notification alerts for flights that they have searched, and then they can receive those instant notifications if there is a significant price drop. So there, over there on the right, you can see just below the filter options, they can kind of toggle on any alerts with the parameters that they've already searched for that particular flight. Great. So the last one we have here is specifically for our high-value customers or our genius customers. Our high-value customers must be able to receive differentiated financial and experimental benefits. Now, why is this important? Because research shows that 40% of users are more likely to book when they receive a benefit that is applied to their product. We're really seeing that come to life over there on the right. The first screen shows that this user is getting a 20% off with their Genius properties, and they can enjoy free breakfast and room upgrades with select stays. So that little banner is kind of promoting that there. On the far right, then you can see that if the user there spends over $200, 200 euros on their stay, they can receive a free taxi ride from their airport to their accommodation. So this is what it really means for customers, is that they would receive a variety of discounts for each product, as well as free or cheap extras applied to the direct product that they are interested in to promote them through that selection and booking process. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, and that'll be all.
So if you fell asleep through that, I wouldn't blame you. It's a typical kind of design presentation, especially what we do at Booking, and I've seen other kind of corporate leading companies present very much in the same way. Here's the feature, here's what it does, here's why we think it's important. Now I want to show you the format that we actually ended up presenting instead. Please keep in mind that I was working with my own personal kind of video editing and animation budget, but I really hope that it still gives you a good flavor of kind of the format that we ended up going with.
I'd like you to meet Sarah. She lives in Portland, Oregon with her partner and 2 children. And like most Americans, she only gets 2 weeks of paid vacation time, so she really tries to make the most of it. Now, she's not sure exactly when she wants to travel, but she knows it'll have to be during their school break. So now she can see accommodation options for a week's stay within the 2 different months that she selected. And once she's found the perfect stay, she's delighted to see that Booking is offering her a free taxi from the airport. Speaking of the airport, it's time to find her flights. After browsing around for a little while, nothing is falling quite within her price range, so she opts in to be notified of any price drops. Time flies, and before they know it, Sarah and her family have arrived in Paris. And to her surprise, she's also received a free breakfast with her stay. And since they don't need to search for somewhere to eat, they get to arrive early to the Arc de Triomphe and take in the amazing views. The connected trip isn't just getting a free taxi or tracking flight prices. A truly connected trip will change the way that Booking.com customers experience travel altogether. But bits and pieces scattered across the organization is not good enough. We need a unified experience, and more importantly, we all need to work together to make this vision a reality.
Cool. Okay, so when I was creating that, or the actual one that I presented with future-facing kind of features and experiences, I did have a few goals in mind when creating it. I wanted the story to be very relatable. Over at Booking, we're all travel fanatics. We have multiple forums, multiple threads just to talk about travel. So we kind of live and breathe this stuff a little bit. So I knew not only internal employees would be kind of looking at the story and critiquing it and trying to see themselves in it, but it's also about their experiences traveling, so it had to be kind of relatable. I also wanted it to create that empathy for the people that we're actually building these products for. But I also wanted it to be inspiring. The features that we ended up choosing in the end really pushed the envelope of what we felt like we could achieve within 3 to 5 years for the entire company. But most importantly, it had to be realistic. Those previous vision attempts that I was talking about almost felt so out of reach. So many people that I talked to couldn't see their path between now and the future just because it was so almost artificial. I mean, we're talking about hotel rooms greeting you when you enter inside, or drones kind of dropping you off for transport. It was cool, but that's about kind of where it ended. And the last thing is, I wanted it to end on creating a sense of purpose. Again, this is really internal facing, so I wanted the people kind of creating or intending to create these experiences have a call to action that we needed to kind of rethink the way that we were approaching our product in order to achieve this vision. Now, the story that I presented to our leadership team was the catalyst for so much unexpected change. And had we chosen kind of a simpler, more straightforward, more predictable route, I can confidently, so very confidently say we would not have seen the waves of impact that we did. So in summary, the core elements that I feel like are essential for a successful product vision is that it has to be collaborative and inclusive. It has to include stakeholders from so many parts of the business, and you have to bring them together, especially when you work at a corporation equal to the size of Booking.com. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. They've got their own priorities that it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. But what collaboration and inclusion does when you kind of bring them in and get them doing workshops and thinking about the people that we're building this thing for, is it almost creates this automatic buy-in. They feel this sense of, hey, I did this. Like, I helped create this. Like, now I really need to figure out how my area or my piece contributes to that overarching vision. And it has to balance being inspiring, but also being grounded in reality. Personally, being at Booking for as long as I have, it's easy and it's cool to like kind of see the things that are really, hype-based or so forward-facing, and that's nice. But the impact that kind of striking that balance of being realistic as well as inspiring is, yeah, it just compounds. It's kind of, actually, I'm just so surprised by what it was capable to do, because people can see their path there. They can say, wow, that's going to be really hard for us to achieve, but I think we can achieve it if we figure it out. And then also, you need a dedicated team. Some of the previous initiatives were done kind of side of the desk, or like I said, kind of seen as like, oh, UX kind of owns that. And what do we do with it? We don't really know. So a dedicated team focused on this initiative is so important, because like I said, you need somebody kind of sitting and looking across the entire thing in order to pull it all together. If you have somebody dedicated kind of in one part or another part, that holistic image and vision will not come together. So in order for you to kind of get there, the process of kind of crafting this successful product vision is to create that common understanding. So important. I mean, I don't know if it's the case for you guys, but over at Booking, we sit on a mountain of research and data. Like, we just have so much of it. And a lot of the time, we don't necessarily always utilize it the best. So taking those insights, kind of collating them and putting them into a format that the decision makers can consume and make, informed decision on, super important. And then you also have to kind of define your vision priorities as well. You just can't do everything. I probably don't need to tell you that, but there's going to be a lot of ideas on the table, a lot of really cool ideas also, but you have to boil them down, whether you do that over value and effort, or you do that through combat statements, or whatever kind of format they come through in. It's just you have to prioritize what you're setting out to achieve. And then you have to visualize the how. Now, I have never felt like I've had such a superpower as a designer than I have being able to put something that's 3 to 5 to 7 year facing and saying, do you want this? Is this what you want for the future of your company? Yes or no? Like, do you want to bring this to life for your customers and to our travelers, actually? This is so important because a lot of our discussions previously had been very data focused, so lots of charts, lots of numbers, lots of KPIs, but nobody was really kind of presenting what could be, and very tangibly, right? So yeah, visualizing is so key. And then also just creating that compelling customer-centric narrative. Actually going into the presentation, we had no clue what was going to come of it. We had actually no goals for the team afterwards. It was just, we're going to do this, and that might be the end of it, or we'll kind of just see what happens. But I think taking the extra time and the extra effort to really put the whole feature, the whole vision kind of through a customer-centric narrative, again, was really what made the impact that it did. And also what happened is that people were like, in different departments and different BUs and kind of different parts of the organization, they're like, oh, we want to do that too. We want to figure that out for our slice, and then our slice, and how does it ladder up into the bigger piece as well. So it was just incredibly powerful in my experience. And that is what I'm going to end with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll have some time for Q&A session. Okay, I got first one, and I'm coming to you.
Hi, Miranda. Thanks for your speech. My question is about, so you showed us a little data and research, and you talked about how important research is it at Booking.com, which is really crucial in this huge company. So before releasing, so let's say before working on that feature, so you showed with the video and etc. Have you, the team, did any kind of research before releasing it, like interviews or something? Like how went that? So could you tell us a little bit about the process? Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So the question was really around, did we kind of validate what we put forward or what our leadership decided? And the answer is no. We didn't, not as the product vision team. Once the priorities were kind of set and made and some of the investing and funding was decided, it was the actual departments and teams that took the parts of the vision, because I will say what was represented in the vision was purely that, a representation. We very much caveated that it wasn't necessarily product or production ready designs that were going forward. So what happened is that, yeah, the priorities were made across the organization, and then it was the jobs of the departments to really validate that. And that's where they went into more detail, kind of crafting more specific prototypes, or maybe they did some kind of just different types of research and types of testing to validate those further, because they were the subject matter experts. So yeah, hopefully that answers that.
Thank you. Do we have other questions from the public? We'll give you some time. And I wonder, what was the inspiration for this movie? Or are you? I mean, you are definitely talented as a video editor, and I wonder what was the inspiration for that story that came in your mind.
Yeah, honestly, I just made it up. So like I said, Apple keynotes and Simon Sinek were, I swear I kind of like transcribed so much of what they did. But the stories that I put forward, if I'm being completely honest, they were very close to my own experience. We knew what the data we had about our travelers, so they needed to be kind of within the demographics that we were trying to capture and stuff like that. But a lot of it was based on my own knowledge, and the reason for that is because I could tell that story so comfortably, and I could say this person from a location that I had been to wants to do kind of this. But then I also asked internally, like if it was a family traveler, like what are your struggles? What are some of the relatable things that we can include in this story? But because we had done so much research and insights on, we knew the pain points and the problems, we could just talk about them. We could just say like families travel and they struggle with X or they struggle with Y. But yeah, so it was kind of a combination of things, I think.
Okay, so did you have to iterate through many versions of that story to make it alive?
Yes, because they didn't want to give us very much time at all. That was the biggest thing. I think I started out with a video that was almost like 12 minutes long, and lots of features, lots of things kind of included in it. But I think at the end we had to have it down to 8. So there was lots of iterations. We had to very much prioritize the experiences we were showing. But I will say, like, the story itself never altered. It was just more of like what we really needed to show. And actually, it was right at the very end we had our CBO say, we're actually discontinuing this topic, so we need to take that out of the video, because otherwise people are going to get a very mixed message as well. So there was stuff like that kind of playing in, but yeah.
And what was the hardest thing during the process?
The timeline. Like it was absolutely insane. I wouldn't recommend it or wish it upon anybody. I mean, I was practicing over the weekend. I was working evenings, you know, like and now we've done this a few times over because this was in 2022, but having a little bit more time and focus to really put some thought and consideration and also validate it and kind of run it by people internally as well, just to get that initial feedback. Super important. So yeah.
Okay, I can imagine that it needed really big dedication to your work.
Yeah, I guess like diamonds are made under pressure, right? That's kind of the whole thing. But
okay,
yeah.
Now let me make some space for the public. Do you come? Yeah, we got one. Hold a second.
Okay,
got two.
so first of all, thanks for the nice presentation. Now, regarding the topic of working overtimes and stuff, first of all, what's your motivation to go through all that, and how you keep sane on a working level, you know, how you cope with all the stress? Advice will be very welcome.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I will say, at least this was kind of a one-off. Like, this was a one-off project that really needed to happen under a crazy timeline. And I think my motivation to answer your first part was just the potential. Like, I wanted to do this right. I had seen it done. I had seen it kind of fail, and I'm like, maybe I can actually like get some traction with this project and have some impact and make a difference. And that was my motivation. So I'm like, I'll cram it in. I'll do weekends and evenings. Trust me, I made up my time otherwise. Like, I took holiday and whatever else afterwards. But subsequently, we've probably done about almost 20 more of these vision activities in different departments. So the timeline I showed you was probably about 2.5 months. That's how much I got. But a proper one of these with a full department has taken up to 8 months in other parts of our organization, which probably included, I want to say up to 250 stakeholders for that. So it kind of gives you an idea of how much time you actually need to do this properly and plan it out and consider people's capacity to do it. How do I cope with the stress? Oh, that's a good one. I think it's just holiday. I actually live in the Netherlands. Booking is based out of the Netherlands. Is like knowing when to take that time. So when we did kind of hit a milestone or something, it's just taking a break, disconnecting completely. But honestly, the success and stuff that I saw that was completely unexpected from this was super motivating. Like, really wanted me to kind of just keep engaging with this. And it's now become a staple process within our product organization, and kind of helping other designers kind of make that impact as well has just been, again, super motivating. But yeah, knowing kind of when to turn off is the biggest thing. And coming from America, that's also very counterintuitive.
Yeah, it can be hard. Okay, I saw that one other person had, two other persons, yeah. We have plenty of time, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, it was a quick talk.
Hey, thank you again for the presentation. I had 2 questions, actually. So firstly, before you make the vision, you obviously had this, let's call it foundational research to feed into what would be in there. What kind of research did you have, and how did you decide this is enough to start the vision rather than just gathering more and more? And also, once you had it, how did you make sure that this did gain traction? Because I guess in a big company, no matter how good things are, sometimes they can just get lost amongst other emails and messages.
Yeah, I think there was definitely a few things playing in our favor, kind of as our team. First off, it was a request from the CBO, right? So it was kind of coming from the top a little bit. And I will say a little bit of a caveat as well, that the previous vision initiatives, I think the company was just kind of ready, or was getting ready, or it was kind of on the verge of being ready to be a bit more customer-centric rather than so kind of business-focused. So to your question about how did we know if the research was enough, I will say I worked with some very talented, dedicated researchers, but and so we kind of churn a lot of research in the company. We have a consistent market report. We have competitive analysis. We have mountains of internal data from just kind of our own experiments and things that are going on. So, but what I did is the first thing that we kind of looked at, was there any gaps? What were the key questions that kind of we had in order to kind of look at through this vision project? What were the core, we called them exam questions. What did our leadership have? Like, what did they really want to kind of know and be a little bit more confident about? If we didn't have research that addressed those, that would have been a gap. And then we just called that out. And then made the decision whether we went and did more research to kind of fill that gap and be able to answer that question or not. So that's kind of how we prioritized and determined the amount of research. The traction piece, or how it got the traction, I'll be perfectly honest with you, we didn't really think it would. Like, I'm not going to lie to you saying like we did it perfectly and it was just great. it just quickly started to be circulated around. Like, to give you an idea, when I was in this very small meeting room with our leadership team, and I'm presenting it rather than the voiceover like I showed you now, and that's kind of our format now, I presented it to them, I engaged with them, and I said, have you ever had a flight delay? And how much did that suck? You know, what was your experience? And how did booking help you? And they're like, oh, it sucks. We're talking about our own company, right? So I think they could just kind of see themselves in it. And to give you an idea, we're in this tiny meeting room, and they just roared in applause at me. And I literally took a step back. I was like, I was not expecting that. But what happened was that it just quickly started to be circulated. It went from our leadership team to the Priceline board to our ELT, and it just started kind of the video and the format started being circulated very quickly until it was asked to be presented in front of all of the employees. And then I will say, just kind of some high performers within booking, I guess, is once they saw that, that's kind of what I was telling you before, is they said, how can we also do this? How can we take our piece and be more strategic and kind of figure out our contribution to that connected trip? And then we had to figure that out. It's like, wow, that's an opportunity for us to kind of standardize the way that we're doing this. And then we kind of partnered with different departments and things to figure out what that kind of framework looked like. Yeah.
It sounds really rewarding to have that kind of reaction to your idea.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect it. I wasn't even supposed to present, honestly. It just happened that way.
We have another question from the public.
Yeah. Hey, Miranda. Thank you for a very inspiring speech. I was wondering, maybe you can share something about that. For sure, in the booking company, you measured the success. And I'm really curious about this flexibility feature. How this influenced the conversion rate? Did you find out that your audience is more flexible than you suspected? Is there anything that you can share about it?
Are you talking about like the date flexibility? Yeah, specifically, yeah. This was actually the first feature that was prioritized and actually got put in front of travelers that was actually from the vision that was presented. So I'm really glad that you called that out. And yeah, so we had data saying that people wanted longer term stays and that they also wanted to be able to compare different destinations or different accommodations based off of different dates. So I think, I can't actually share any specific numbers, I don't think, but we definitely saw an increase in the amount of people selecting accommodations after we incorporated the feature of flexibility. Yeah.
Great. Do we have any other questions from the audience? I'm not sure if I saw some at the back.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I would like to ask about dark patterns, which are visible in Booking.com, and what is your opinion about that? Thanks.
Yeah, fair enough. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's a few kind of very large legal compliance things that's happening actually EU-wide that we're going to have to meet the standards for. So a lot of our priorities next year are actually addressing some of those things because basically the EU is saying you can't do a lot of that. I think last year, the beginning of this year, we had a whole part of the organization and representatives from every member of the team to actually do an analysis of where we do have dark patterns, both for the traveler side, but also for our partner-facing products. And we've created priorities to kind of eliminate some of those. But I will say at the same time, there's also a business value to some of them, right? So some of the time pressure ones and some of the things you still see on the site today, they're still meeting the legal compliances, but also impacting, the business value that they have.
Great. Do we have any other questions from the audience?
Hi. I have a question regarding the mountain of data you mentioned, and I assume that when you're working with such a vast platform with such long history, the UX research part that you need to go through and validate all the experiments that were conducted in the past and all the assumptions, insights, etc. Do you have a sort of like a system within Booking that helps you or other teams to avoid, for instance, overlapping of your experiments with our teams, etc., to quickly validate what is still current, what is a sort of legacy, etc.?
Yeah, so at Booking it's similar to Facebook and Google. We have our own experimentation platform that allows us to do very rapid A/B testing. And I think typically, it depends on the experiment, depends on the actual feature outlet, but typically we run it for about 2 weeks. So we do get pretty quick feedback. And I mean, if you consider Booking, we have millions of users on our platform. So it doesn't take too long for us to get the data that we need to validate the experiments. But within this experimentation tool, to your point, duplication or redundancy, et cetera, you can actually search the different experiments either by page or label or name or part of the experience or platform that allows us to try to eliminate some of that. I would say previously, like when I started at Booking, not the best. Lots of kind of redundant or duplicative experiments happening, but we've gotten a lot better as we've advanced the platform that allows us to do that.